Hello, I'm Mark with The Sea Within You, and I wanted to talk a little bit about some professional approaches to getting a birth chart done, or how you can tell if you've actually received what I consider a professional astrological consultation that you can use for the rest of your life, or at least give you some real agency. And the reason I'm mentioning this is because you have a lot of free will within your birth chart. You're both fated and you have free will. And what I mean by that is you're given kind of a structure, like James Hillman would say in his book, The Soul's Code, an apple tree doesn't grow into an oak tree, or something to that effect. And the reason that's important is because you can show up to an astrologer and literally have your reality denied, or you're at the whim of how they interpret your chart, etc., etc. And there's many right ways to do birth charts, so I don't want to try to kind of impose an idea that I have an idea that's right, or the Huber method that I teach and use is the only right way. But I think it's really important. I'm going to quote actually something from John Frawley here, and this is out of the book The Real Astrology Applied, and I studied with John for about 4 years in his traditional, if you will, techniques. Why this is important is because at a baseline for working with your chart, you want to be able to walk away and understand your temperament and inner motivation. It's really important. You want to understand the nature of your beast, if you will, so that you have this, are you an oak tree? Are you an apple tree? When you, for example, to put this down to practical earth, when you go to get your Myers-Briggs test done, which is completely a ripoff of, obviously, from Carl Jung, and getting back to any of the old philosophies and how we viewed the world through psychology way back in the day, you understand yourself as, I'm an introvert, I'm an extrovert, I'm ENFP, I'm too sensitive, I'm too feeling, I'm too judging, etc., etc. That gives you an idea of that level of temperament, how you move through the world, right? Earth, air, water, fire, the whole thing, choleric, sanguine, melancholic. And through a birth chart, that absolutely can be analyzed. The assessment of temperament, I'm going to read this quick chapter for you to give you an idea. The calculation of temperament is the vital first step in analysis of the nativity. Skipping this stage leaves us ignorant of the nature of which we are dealing. No matter what the other indications in the chart may tell us about the nature, omitting this initial step leaves us ignorant of whether the nature in question is that of a tiger, a gibbon, a bull, or a giant sloth. This is a distinction of no small significance. Most of what we read from the chart, and certainly all that we read from it on the psychological and physical levels, must be read in light of this initial distinction. And he goes on, the name of the book is The Real Astrology Applied. And that's, if you're working, I guess in quote-unquote traditional methods, you absolutely vitally need to get your temperament done. If you've gone to an astrologer and haven't gotten your temperament done, I would ask, what have they done for you at that baseline? Without giving you temperament, you end up getting a series of kind of definitions around yourself. Planet in sign with aspects, and you're really just this jumbled mess of various contradictions, which we are, but below it all is this overall temperament that we work through the world through, and that we always fall back to, right? So if you're a raging hothead, to keep it mildly, you're going to have better days and worse days, but overall your temperament moves through life, and it shifts a little bit, but at the end of the day, right, you are what you are. In Huber method, we use temperament, of course, but we actually take it a little bit further, and this is going to sound really wild, but from the esoteric level, and I don't mean esoteric in some kind of advanced New Age system. Esoteric simply meaning what's going on behind the scenes. So in the Huber method that I teach on Module 2, we get really into the aspect level of inner motivation. Here it is here, Chapter 2. Throughout the entire course and through studying Huber is we really look at, see if I can show you here, before we race off and get into temperament or race off to descendant, we're going to absolutely focus on this colorful aspect pattern in the middle, which what we call the inner motivation. And that's hugely important because the rest of the birth chart sits on top of that. I do know some astrologers that will simply focus on all your asteroids or veiled placements, and that's fine to pull them in. But if you've gone to a proper astrological birth chart consultation and all you've walked away with is your Medusa placements and all these various asteroids, or understanding your sun sign, those are just probably going to reinforce behaviors that you already know about yourself, right? So if you're Virgo nature, or if your moon is in Leo, you're already going to relate to those behavior patterns. What we want to get to is a layer below that so that you can work with it, understand it, raise it to a proper conscious level, and have some autonomy and agency. That we get to do by honoring and respecting, both your temperament and the inner motivation, so that you can make choices in your life. If you know that you're super driven to be individuating, and we see that really clearly in the chart. If you see that you have too many, achievement triangles, what we used to call T-squares, that they're really driven in certain areas of life, we need to really own that, understand it, and work with it, not reject it. That's the synthesis side of things, but own these parts of our charts to say, yes, that is me. I do operate that way on a baseline, and I'm going to work with it, honor it, see that there's value in it, learn about the chart and how I can find purpose, meaning, and value through it, but not to reject it and not to simply bypass it either and move on to other areas of the chart. When you walk away from a consultation, you'll likely have a recording. You're going to have lots of questions. I don't think that one consult will solve all your problems, but at the baseline, you should be able to walk away eventually with a certain amount of, hopefully one session, so you don't have to pay a whole bunch of money every time, but we get down to brass tacks of who you are, what you are, and then we have that foundation set that we can move forward on. I feel really strongly about this. This is the way that a professional consultation should give you that level of understanding of yourself. And then in further consultations, moving into timings and what's going to happen to you. I know there's a lot of pressure to sit down in an astrological consultation, and people are so dysregulated, certainly through COVID and certainly afterwards, that we just want everything fixed for ourselves. Tell me what's going to happen to me month by month, week by week. And that's absolutely a level of being dysregulated. And before we race off there and try to put out the flames of what's going to happen to you or how you're going to be moving through life, let's take the ship into port, understand who you are, get a baseline of those motivations, and build from there. We should be able to do this relatively quickly, but it does take a little bit of time, so be open to the process. Have great questions about yourself. Be willing to learn from a proper consultation, whoever that is giving you. I just really feel that you should be walking away with an understanding of your temperament, your inner motivations, so that you still have agency and you can still direct your ship to the level of free will that you have once you've kind of walked through a consultation, and you therefore have something to kind of build on and take forward. So hopefully that makes sense. And if you have any questions, let me know. And again, here's the books if you want to get started. John Frawley, Huber Method, or give me a shout and I will send you a list of Huber books. I highly recommend The Cosmic Egg Timer. I don't have that right in front of me right now, but yes, The Cosmic Egg Timer is the greatest introduction into Huber to understand if that method could work for you and your life and for what you're trying to pull off.